For us here at CEP, you know, a lot of times after a diagnosis, people almost feel a loss of identity sometimes. It's like, who am I if I'm not remembering things well? Or who am I if I can't drive my car the way I used to, or do my job the way that I used to be? And it can even cause a lot of us to be a little bit harder on ourselves than you might want to be. And acceptance is a long journey in a situation of early stage memory loss. It's something that a lot of us don't really wrap ourselves around until we're at a place where we're so frustrated with being hard on ourselves that we're willing to try a few things out to make things a little bit different. And if you find yourself being somebody who is often harsh on themselves, or is in a place where you're thinking a lot about what you should have done or could have done or would have done, acceptance can be a pathway out of some of the suffering or some of the extra hardship that those thoughts might cause. So we're going to get into that a little bit in today's session, but I just want to invite you before we start to get a place to sit down that is going to be nice and sturdy and comfortable. You might clear a little bit of space out around you. And we work a lot with the soles of the feet in these classes because we're working on balance as one of our main objectives for the benefits of this practice. So I'm going to invite you to slide your shoes off and maybe place your shoes underneath your seat so that you've got that nice clean space around you. And we're going to work a little bit with the soles of the feet because that's the foundation of balance, of course. See if you can separate your feet about hip width distance apart. And you may choose to do this first part of our workout from the chair in a seated position. All of our exercises are made to either be done from the chair or standing, so feel free to choose what works best or change your mind. But either way, separate your feet about hip width distance apart. Make sure that your big toes are pointing straight ahead. And one at a time, we're just going to raise one heel and then lower it back down to the ground. See if you can shift your weight from one leg into the opposite leg. And notice that standing leg that's holding the weight there. You might feel that foot get a little bit heavier. Your toes might even press into the ground a little bit more. You can stay just like that, or you might start to hover one foot just for a few moments, getting a little bit more strength building into that standing leg. And the slower that you go, the more difficult this will become. And you can see my hands on the back of the chair. That gives me a little something to hold on to for safety that helps a little bit with confidence. Whether you're seated or you're standing, notice your posture. The tendency might be to kind of lean forward as we lift that knee up. See if you can stack your shoulders over your hips, lift your chin out of your chest so that you've got a little bit more of an upright position in your spine. Yeah, continue for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now bring both feet down to the floor. Some of the options that I offer may not work for your body. See if you can find a variation that works for you, whatever's happening in your back or with any pain you might be noticing. And feel free to take breaks or stop along the way. Either way, press into your feet into the floor. Bring your arms alongside your torso. Let's come into our first little yoga pose of the day, this mountain pose. Arms alongside your body. Draw your shoulders nice and broad. Lift up through your collarbones. With an inhale, stretch your arms up overhead, whatever works best for your shoulders. Exhale, bring your hands down to trace the vertical column of your spine here. Let's do that a few more times. Inhale, arms up overhead. Take your time. And part of acceptance at first in this practice may be just kind of accepting where your body's at today, which may include limitations. Inhale, stretch up through your fingertips, fill up your lungs. Exhale back to center. 3 more like that. Move in with your breath. Feel free to take a pause or a break when you need. Exhale back down. Last 2, big breath in. Exhale back to center. And we know it's good when we take up a lot of space. That's really good for our body, not just physically, but neurologically. Big breath in. Exhale, coming all the way back down. This time, bring your hands to your hips, tone your belly, lift your chest up, and on your next inhale, stretch your left arm up overhead. Reach up through your fingertips, straighten your arm, and on your exhale, see if you can side stretch. Inhale back to center. Use the strength of your belly and your back. Exhale to reach. Yeah. And as you get into the side stretching, see if you can open up some of the spaces in between your ribs. That's going to help if you have any low back tightness. Last round, reach to the side. Inhale back to center. Exhale to switch. This time, inhale, stretch your right arm up overhead, reach up. Exhale to lean. Moving with your breath at your own rate, at your own pace. Use the strength of your belly, pulling in towards your spine here. Last two. Exhale to the side. Open up and stretch your ribs. Inhale to center, reach up. Exhale and release. See if you can roll your wrist out a few times. Interlace your fingers to the webbing, especially if you've been having a little bit of arthritis in your hands with some of the weather change that's happening. And then switch the direction of that roll. Very nice. You can stay here or with your fingers interlaced, point your elbows out to the side and bring your knuckles right underneath your chin. Yeah, getting into some movement in our upper back here. Exhale, lower your elbows down, but lift your chin up and look up. Exhale, chin down, elbows up. And switch. As your elbows go down, look up. Exhale, move in with your breath, and we're going to get a little bit of movement, not just through our shoulders, but also through the back of our neck. See if you can let your breath breathe itself. Let your breath come and go as your lungs fill a little bit more. And one of the things that we say in these yoga classes is to bring your attention into the present moment. And that's something that early stage memory loss can't take away from us. Being in the present moment is something we can actually enjoy a little bit more, maybe after a big diagnosis. On your next inhale, see if you can bring your elbows up one last time. Exhale back to mountain pose. Inhale back to where we started. Arms up overhead. Exhale, coming all the way back down through center. All right, one last balance challenge here. Whether you're seated or you're standing, slide that right foot forward. You can bring your foot flat to the floor. That'll feel a little bit more stable, a little bit more steady. Or you might lift your right heel and just rest your big toe on the floor in front of you. Try to pull those muscles that we talked about earlier in your low belly in. Maybe even stand a little taller. Stay here or flex your foot. Maybe hover just a few inches away from the floor. And you can see I've got the chair here beside me and the wall behind me so I don't fall into anything. You could stop and stay here or pull your knee into your chest. Maybe bend your knee a little bit for 3, 2, 1, and release. Bring both feet back to the floor to switch. Stretch your left foot out in front of you. Maybe start with heel down. Tone your belly, lift your chest, stand a little taller, maybe come on to one tippy toe. And one side sometimes is a little bit different than the other. Sometimes we're a little bit stronger on one side than the other. Try not to be self-critical here. See if you can accept what's happening in your body lovingly and maybe back out to accommodate it. Stay here or flex your foot to hover. Yeah. This may be a good place to stop or bend your knee into your chest. Lift up one more place and your shape may look much different than mine. You may be on the chair with your foot on the floor wherever you're at, sit a little taller for 3, 2, 1, release with both feet on the floor, hip width distance apart. Inhale, stretch your arms up overhead to reach up. Clear your breath out. Exhale, back to center. 2 more like that to finish off our little standing warm up here. And then we're going to join everybody in the chair. Last round. Inhale, arms up overhead. Big breath in. Exhale, back to center. Very nice warm up, everybody. Have a seat. Have a seat, and let's talk a little bit about what's coming up next. You might have some places that are a little sore or a little tender today. Noticing those spots is part of this acceptance work that we're talking about. It's not about everything magically being healed or being better, although it oftentimes can be a delusion that we sometimes get caught in, right? But acceptance is not about making everything good. It's about really sitting with what is, without judgment, without trying to change anything, especially the things that we can't control or change. And part of this yoga therapy is noticing that there's certainly a part of yourself that changes, that ages, that grows, that learns, and a part of yourself that doesn't change, right? Your nature. And maybe resolve both of those places with a little bit of kindness. Walk your feet out a little bit wider than the legs of your chair. Turn your big toes out towards your pinky toes. Press your feet into the floor and notice you can lift your chest up away from the ground if you use a little bit more of that back strength. Like we did earlier, inhale, arms up overhead. This time, exhale, palms out in front of you. See if you can flex your wrists like you're showing me the palms of your hands. Bring your hands parallel to the floor in front of you. Take a big breath in and lift your chest. Exhale and release. Let your arms dangle towards the floor as you fold forward. Dive down only as far as you need to feel the stretch in your back. Release the weight of your head to stretch the back of your neck. Accept what's happening in your body. Notice what you need. If it's too intense, see if you can back out a little bit. With your feet strong, pressing into the floor, inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. Reach all the way back up. Exhale back to that mountain pose, that fundamental pose. Inhale to switch, arms up overhead. Exhale, arms out in front of you. Flex your wrists. Stay here. Take a big breath in. Exhale, dive forward. Release the weight of your head. Inhale, arms up overhead. Let's keep that pattern going one more time. Exhale to mountain pose. Arms alongside your torso. Last round. Inhale, arms up. Big breath. Exhale, arms out in front of you. Stay here, chest nice and tall. Take a big breath in. Exhale, dive forward. Stretch your back, strong legs. Here we go. Inhale, press into your feet. Arms up overhead. Exhale, mountain pose. Release. Arms alongside your torso. Inhale, hands to hips. Tone your belly. Lift your chest. And then walk your feet a little bit closer together, back to that hip width distance apart. Windshield wiper your knees side to side to get a little bit of internal and external rotation of those thigh bones and the hip socket there. Yeah, it might feel nice to have a little bit of a twist in your back. We're going to get into a little bit more twisting in our back to help release some of those tight muscles in a moment. Come all the way back to center. See if you can sit up a little taller. And we're going to get the left and the right sides of our brain communicating a little bit here, while we work on some of that low body strength. I'm going to turn to the side just to give you a little bit better profile view here. Separate your feet back to that neutral distance, about hip width distance apart. And this time stretch your left hand out in front of you, palm facing up. Try to relax your shoulder down. Keep the nice lift of those belly muscles pulling in. And then opposite arm, opposite leg. Come up onto that right tippy toe. Stay here and hold, or float your right foot to hover. You can stay here or even use your hand behind your thigh or in front of your knee. Whatever works best, stay tall. Take a big breath in and lift your chest, yeah. Exhale, release your foot to the floor. And we're going to twist. See if you can turn to the right. Reach across your body. Grab onto whatever you can grab onto. You might grab onto your thigh or your knee here. And use your hands on your legs to help turn and look over your right shoulder. Get that twist all the way from your low back up through the back of your neck. It's a little harder to breathe sometimes in these twists. See if you can keep your breath coming and going. Big breaths in and out. You got this. You can stay here or stretch your right arm back behind you. Maybe look back towards your right hand to get a little bit more of that stretch into that right shoulder. One more big breath in and out here. And release. Very nice. Inhale, come back to center, a nice neutral spine. This time, see if you can stretch your right hand out in front of you and come up onto your left tippy toe. Feel free to come back here at any time or float your left foot to hover. And again, use your hand for a little bit of support if you need to here. Whatever side you didn't do is great. Just make sure you have opposite arm, opposite leg. Take a big breath in, tall belly, tall back. Exhale and release. Reach across your body. Twist to the opposite side. Look over your shoulder. Maybe reach back with that back hand. 3 big breaths in and out of your ribs here, almost like you could open up and spread your ribs with your breath. Notice how your breath is that anchor to be in here in your body right now. We can't breathe into yesterday or tomorrow. Our breath is happening right now. One more round here. Exhale, coming all the way back to center. Unwind slowly. Inhale, stretch your arms up overhead to clear. Come all the way back, hands down through center. 2 more like that. Inhale, arms up overhead. We sometimes define acceptance in this program as a willingness to tolerate things as they are. One more big breath in, and not a delusion of wishing things were different than they were, but a willingness to tolerate things as they actually are. And that sometimes invites a little bit more grace. As you inhale, this time lift your chest up towards your thumbs. Bring your hands to your hips, and we're going to get into a little bit more of some work in our spine to help with the health of our back. And we say sometimes in yoga, we're only as healthy as much as we can move our spine. So we want to have a lot of movement available. And one of the ways we can move, we've done already, kind of side to side, right? We opened up our side body a lot already. Now we're going to bring that a little bit more towards the front of our body and the back of our body. That's going to be through 2 opposite shapes. Come to neutral, the space in between first. Bring your hands to your knees, straighten your arms, lift your chest up. And there may be some limitations here as we get into it. See if you can accept those limitations with grace and a little bit of kindness. Inhale, lift your chest up. Exhale, round your back a little bit. Drop your chin down towards your chest. You might even kind of tuck your tailbone in a little bit here. And as you get shorter in the front of your body, you might notice there's a big stretch in your back body. Release the weight of your head down to get a little bit more stretch in the back of your neck. Maybe 1 big breath in and out here. On your next inhale, come all the way back to center, and this time slide your hands back to your hips. And instead of pulling your elbows out to the side, see if you can pull your elbows back to stretch the front of your body. Lift your chin and look up. Like a rooster crowing in the morning, puff your chest up with your breath. Take a big breath in. Exhale, let your breath go all the way down to the bottom. And these deep breaths are a nice sign to our nervous system that we're slowing down and taking a little bit of time to rest and repair. Let's do 1 or 2 more breaths like that. Letting all that oxygen circulate. And that repairs a lot of those cells as well. Exhale, hands to knees, round your back, chin to chest. Let's go back and forth between those 2 shapes. Inhale, hands to hips, elbows back, chin up. Exhale, hands to knees, tuck your chin down, round your back. Keep going for a few more rounds like that. And if there are some other movements in your spine that work better for you, all we're doing here is just moving our spine mindfully. You can take whatever form of that works for you. One or 2 more rounds. On your next inhale, come all the way back to neutral. Inhale to clear, arms up. Exhale back to center. One more like that. Big breath in, arms up overhead. Exhale, coming all the way back to center. And you can take a little bit more of a supported seat here. You might sit your hips back a little bit further in the chair. And we're going to get into some of these tighter areas like our shoulders and our neck. On your next inhale, shrug your shoulders up towards your ears. And this is a place that can get really frozen and stuck in our body. Exhale out of your mouth with a big sigh. Inhale through your nose, breathe in. Exhale out of your mouth. Let some of that pressure go off your shoulders. Last round, big breath in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth. Yeah, a little bit more space may be opened up in the upper body. And we're also going to do that a little bit more spacious energetically. You might sit back a little bit more relaxed in your chair, maybe even cross your ankles. And bring one or both hands down to your belly or your low ribs. A lot of us instinctively tighten the muscles of our belly. And I've actually instructed you to do that a lot today, saying things like, pull your low belly muscles in. But in this moment, I'm actually going to invite you to loosen your low belly muscles up and just let your belly kind of hang a little bit fuller, which may be counterintuitive. Get comfortable in your seat. And we're going to do a little bit of breathing with our diaphragm. Again, it's one of the things that can help us with distress tolerance, to help our body get back into a place of being really nice and calm and being able to really be aware of where our attention is going. So see if you can bring your attention down to your belly. Let your low belly muscles loosen a little bit. Exhale, let your breath go all the way down to the bottom. And inhale, see if you can imagine breathing into your belly. Let your belly expand with your breath. You might even imagine your breath kind of going up underneath your collarbones, but we want to keep it really in the belly. Exhale, go all the way back down. Press your breath all the way out. Inhale to fill. Try to keep your body soft. Maybe even release your shoulders down away from your ears and relax your face a little bit. And your attention and your brain may want to go to a lot of different things. It may want to do the grocery list or kind of make a to-do list for later. But see if you can just for 1 or 2 more rounds, let your attention rest on your breath. And you might imagine that you're not breathing alone right now, but there's a lot of people who are breathing with you all together right now who make up a part of this community. And you might use your creative awareness just to imagine for a few more moments all of us breathing in and out together. Sometimes it feels like no one else understands the unique challenges with early stage memory loss, but you might imagine these people breathing with you right now can understand a little bit of some of the struggles and challenges and even some of the rewards and accomplishments that this journey might have brought so far. Keeping your breath a little bit deeper. Take another big breath in through your nose. Exhale out of your mouth and let it go. And you might just wiggle your toes a little bit. Maybe wiggle your fingers a little bit to bring some more movement back in. One at a time, step your feet back to the floor. Maybe unwind your arms and inhale, stretch your arms up overhead again. Big breath in to reset. Exhale back to center. 2 more like that. Big breath in. Exhale back down. Last one like that. Big breath in. Exhale all the way back down. And in our sessions, we like to do a little bit of some dual tasking. See if you can turn your palms facing up. And this is something that I got from our occupational therapist, Dr. Tracy Moon. See if you can bring your thumbs to kiss all your other fingertips. We're going to start out with the pinky, thumb and pinky together. Then thumb and ring finger together, that second finger. Thumb and middle finger is the third, and then index is the fourth. So we're kind of tapping each finger along the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just letting the thumb tap each finger, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep practicing, and the instinct is to want to look at your hands. It certainly makes it a little bit easier, but you can also make it a little bit more difficult by looking straight ahead and just letting the tips of your finger, all those little nerve endings, tell you that they're touching instead of your eyes. Yeah. And you can even try it with your eyes closed. That's even a little bit more of a challenge. If you notice yourself being harsh or having any negative or critical self-talk here, there's no reason to make this more important than it has to be. The stakes are very low. We're just tapping fingers. And when we notice negative thoughts arise, we really do want to offer kind thoughts to help counterbalance those negative thoughts. Maybe one last round. Yeah, and shake your hands out a little bit. Loose fingertips, loose joints are what we want to see. If you start shaking your hands and notice rigidity, it might be a sign that something else neurologically is happening. We want loose hands, loose elbows. Yeah. All right, let's do a little bit more on the dual tasking part. We're going to add some of our catchphrases here from CEP and the infamous words of Thich Nhat Hanh. We're going to use the phrase, peace begins with me. And there's some misconceptions about what that means. I think especially in mindfulness, we think that it means everything is great and rosy and just works out the way we want. But what it really means in a mindfulness perspective is that even when things are hard and we're suffering, that we can find a space within ourselves that is peaceful and has ease despite the circumstances around us. And when we don't have access to that, we get a case of what we call the shoulda, woulda, couldas, which is really a denial of the truth of what's really happening. And sometimes what's really happening is things are hard. And we can sit with that too. We can find peace even in those moments. So let's add those two things together. Going back to our finger tapping and our phrases, peace begins with me. Each word is a different finger. And we're going to say that out loud a few times. And that's the doing two things at once. The cognitive challenge is a really good thing for our brain. Even if it's not perfect, it's still working on things that are a nice challenge for our brain. Let's do a few rounds out loud. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Two more. Peace begins with me. Last round. Peace begins with me. Now, same thing, but whispering. See if you can keep the finger tapping going. And if two at once is too much, feel free just to select one or the other. Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. Two more. Peace begins with me. Last round. Peace begins with me. Very good. And this last few rounds, see if you can just do that silently to yourself. Saying those phrases silently to yourself. Maybe keeping the tapping of your fingers going too. Maybe one more round here. When you're done, interlace your fingers to the webbing for one more moment. Rest your knuckles in your lap and see if you can just hang out nice and still and breathe into the resonance of that practice, into the after effects of those words. You might relax your belly again, release any muscles that are tight unnecessarily. You might relax your shoulders and your face. And invite a gentle acceptance for a little bit of space to tolerate things the way they are. You might invite a little bit of grace and kindness into the things that you cannot change. A willingness to accept that. And a willingness to work with action towards the things that you can change. Accepting that we're all human and make mistakes and that suffering is certainly part of this human experience. You might take one or two deeper breaths in and out, just clearing out anything that came up from practice today. Taking another breath of the group all together, acknowledging the support of the other people on this call today. A big breath in and out. On your next inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. Take a last big breath in. Exhale, coming all the way back down through center. Start to rub your hands together. Spark a little bit of heat from the friction between your palms. A little faster, a little faster. And then with those warm hands, either cup your cheeks or cup your eyes. Taking a moment just to acknowledge something that you're grateful for today, however big, however small. Just one simple thing you're grateful for right here, right now. In honor of yourself, in honor of each other, the people on this call, in honor of this community and those that are affected by mild cognitive impairment and the larger communities that we're a part of. Exhale and gently release. It's so good to be together this week. We're going to record this session and post it to our YouTube page. Keep in mind that acceptance is a long journey. It's a lifetime of work, and it never comes very easily. But it can be a really big place of relief, letting go of the effort to try to be perfect or look perfect. A lot of times begins with giving ourselves grace and starting to share our story. It's really interesting to see at this program how often that when someone shares their stories, the places that they're struggling, so many other people nod their head and say, oh, thank you for saying that, me too. And that builds community and allows other people to accept themselves as they watch you accept yourself and your unique journey.